Thank you so much. Uh, I think as you have been informed, the the theme of the discussion today is building digital Bharat with new age BFSI services, and I think I must congratulate the organizers to now start focusing on the Bharat part, which we normally see as the rural India, making things more inclusive. All these benefits of technologies, which have reached most of our urban areas and semi-urban areas. How do we now take these services to the rural part of the country? And that would involve, as you might have seen the topics of discussion today, providing lots of capacity building to the end users, making them more digital savvy. Now that is something which, from the experience of doing lots of projects in the country, I think lots of these people are already digital savvy. The smartphones have penetrated everywhere, from plumbers to farmers. Everybody now works through WhatsApp groups, etc. But we would be asking our panelists here, what is it that we're doing for them in terms of building the fintech services for them. And that brings us to the second part as to what kind of technologies, what kind of fintech areas one should focus on. And finally, I think the most important thing we will talk about is how do you ensure that whatever we are building technologically is inclusive and gender focused? How do you make sure that the people who are still on the wrong side of the digital divide, because of either issues related to access or the cultural issues, what some of these fintech companies are doing to make sure that they are included. On this panel today, you see we have very eminent experts from the fintech industry. And along with you, I also hope to learn from them and see if we could get some ideas which can then be used in some of the projects we have been doing. So we have with them Mr. Pankaj Goel, who's the CTO from BharatPe. We have Mr. Abhisar Sharma, who's the CEO of NeSL. We have Pradeep Aswal, who is the CEO of Blockchain Council, and Mr. Sujit Singh, who is the Director and Group CEO of Singhtek and Group Companies. So I think I'll start from Pankaj. Before I go over to him, let me tell you, Pankaj is a seasoned tech and corporate leader and is currently serving BharatPe, which is one of India's leading fintech companies, as the Chief Technology Officer. He has been in the industry for more than 3 decades in various roles, engineering, developing and managing softwares for different groups of consumers, including both small business and large enterprises. So, Pankaj, coming to you, I think we would like to know how is your company helping rural India become more digital savvy, and what kind of services do you offer which ensures that the people from the rural India become part of this entire inclusive financial services domain? Over to you.
Thank you, Vikas, and thanks for the opportunity. And good morning, everyone. I think I would kind of start with a bit of a challenge when you work with rural India, right? In general, there is a lack of digital and financial literacy in tier 3 and rural part of the population, and which creates a lot of mistrust in the financial services. So there is a lack of trust when kind of using any of the payment services or the banking services in general. And it is very important that this challenge is very aggressively and actively solved, because it's very powerful for millions of people to be able to build businesses around this. Right? I mean, when we talk about inclusion across India, I think it is extremely important. At BharatPe, because we typically kind of reach out to all micro businesses across the country. One of the very powerful way for us to educate this population has been our on-ground sales team, right? Because we have on-ground sales team who basically work with, entrepreneurs in the rural areas in the regional language to educate them on various financial services, teach them how to use a lot of digital services and tools on our application on a BharatPe mobile app, because with the advent of smartphones and internet, these services can be made widely available across the ecosystem. And that has really helped to kind of bring quite a bit of literacy in these areas, and that's a continuous effort on our side. Last year in August, we also partnered with Women Entrepreneurship Platform, and with an objective to educate women around the financial and digital literacy as well. And that has been part of our CSR program of Jillian, which is one of the group companies at BharatPe and provides a loyalty and rewards platform. Recently, we have also joined hands with the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise, and the objective there is to educate artisans as well as craft people around the digital services, and this will help them, bring them into the payment ecosystem and help them grow their businesses.
Thank you so much. I think it is very heartening to know that you working with the rural enterprises. You're also, providing them trainings in their own language, the regional languages. Now I think we'll come back to you again. I have a few more questions. With that, we will move to Sujit Singh. Sujit is the director and group CEO of Singhtek group of companies, and I think he has expertise in Fintech, payment industry, business consulting, digital payments, UPI, cross-border payment infrastructure, and also cybersecurity tools. So, Sujit, I would basically would like to know from you, since you've been working in the various domains of fintech industry, when it comes to taking these services to the rural areas, which are the key technology areas you think the industry should focus on? And also, when you're doing your business, are there any programs you have which take care of the gender inclusion or inclusion of some of the groups which don't have so much access to the digital tools?
Okay, thank you, sir. Good morning. अभी तक हम लोगों ने जितने भी प्रोडक्ट बनाए हैं, कंपनी की बात कर रहा हूँ, वो हमारा टारगेट होता है कि हम आगे कैसे रीच करें इंड यूज़र को, इंड कस्टमर को। जब फिनटेक की बात करते हैं तो फिनटेक अभी $1 ट्रिलियन अभी AUM है, एक्सपेक्टेड फिगर ऊपर नीचे हो सकता है, और ये आगे चल के और बढ़ेगा। लेकिन इसके साथ बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं जो भी फिनटेक कंपनियां हैं यहाँ पे, जो इंडिया में काम कर रही है, आउट ऑफ इंडिया काम कर रही है, उनके लिए भी और हमारे लिए भी, कि जो मेजर एरिया है जहाँ पे किसी की रीच नहीं है, बैंक नहीं जा सकते हैं, BFSI नहीं जा सकते हैं, कुछ भी नहीं है, वहाँ पे रीच करना। तो उसके लिए एक एयरटेल पेमेंट बैंक भी कर रहे हैं, हम लोग भी इनिशिएटिव ले रहे हैं, और भी बहुत सारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है जो उस लेवल पे जाके काम कर रहे हैं। तो वहाँ पे जो मेजर चैलेंजेस अभी तक जो हमने लास्ट 10 ईयर में एज्यूम किया, इसलिए कि हम लोग मोस्टली RRB और कोऑपरेटिव के साथ ही काम करते हैं, तो वहाँ पे लोगों को लिटरेसी की बहुत कमी है कि कैसे स्मार्टफोन कैसे यूज़ करेंगे, कोई अगर UPI एप्लीकेशन आ गई तो हम कैसे यूज़ करेंगे उसको, उसमें क्या रिस्क क्या हो सकती है, हमारे साथ फ्रॉड क्या हो सकता है, उस लेवल पे हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं, लोअर लेवल पे जाके सारे RRB और कोऑपरेटिव के साथ। उसमें जो हमारे SI होते हैं, जो TSP होती है, वो जाके और सेमिनार वगैरह ऑर्गेनाइज करती है उनके बेस पे, और उनको आगे इम्प्रूव करती है। रही बात फिनटेक की कि हमें क्या फोकस करना चाहिए, इम्प्रूव करना चाहिए अपने इकोसिस्टम को बिल्ड करने के लिए, ताकि हर छोटा से छोटा आदमी जिसको फ़ोन चलाना भी नहीं आता, जो इलिटरेट है, वो भी यूज कर सके। उसके लिए हमें अच्छा एक इंटरफेस देना पड़ेगा। अगर किसी की आई साइट कम है, उसको बड़े वाले मेनू वाले हम लोग डैशबोर्ड दे सकते हैं, जो अपने स्मार्टफोन पर यूज कर सकता है उसको। दूसरी चीज़, की फ़ोन से भी अभी बहुत सारे ट्रांजैक्शन हो रहे हैं, 2-3 की फीचर फ़ोन आए हैं जिसमें UPI ट्रांजैक्शन इनेबल हुए हैं, वो यूज़ कर सकते हैं। इसके साथ जो फिनटेक हैं, रेगटेक में काम कर रहे हैं, KYC कर रहे हैं, डिजिटल KYC कर रहे हैं, ब्रांचलेस बैंकिंग काम कर रहे हैं, एजेंसी बैंकिंग काम कर रहे हैं, उनको अपने टेक्नोलॉजी को उस लेवल तक लेके जाना पड़ेगा कि जो इंड यूज़र है, जहाँ पे रिच नहीं है, वहाँ पे पहुँचना है। केवल बिजनेस टायर 1, टायर 2, टायर 3 में सब लोग बिजनेस कर रहे हैं, हम लोग टायर 4, टायर 5 के नीचे ही काम करने की कोशिश करते हैं। 2-3 ऑप्शन भी हमारे पास ऊपर से आए थे कि हम सब्सिडाइज भी करेंगे, लेकिन हमें सब्सिडी नहीं चाहिए। हम लोग जो काम करना चाहते हैं कि हमारे पास जो CSR कर रहे हैं, वो उसी फंड से हम लोग करना चाहते हैं उसको, और वो रीच, वो जो एक तरह से पिछड़े हुए हैं, जो जिनको उससे कोई मतलब नहीं है, बोलते हैं कि अगर हम UPI पेमेंट करेंगे तो हमारे साथ फ्रॉड हो जाएगा, हम फ़ोन में अगर कोई एप्लीकेशन UPI यूज़ करेंगे तो हमारे साथ मिस हैपनिंग हो जाएगी। लेकिन वैसा कुछ भी नहीं है। जितने भी हमारी गवर्नमेंट की और जितने भी रेगुलेटरी बॉडी हैं, सर को भी पता है कि उसके लिए टाइम टू टाइम RBI, वर्ल्ड बैंक भी अवेयरनेस प्रोग्राम करते रहते हैं कि जो भी चीज़ें गवर्नमेंट डिजिटाइज करने के लिए कर रही है, डिजिटल पेमेंट के लिए कर रही है, वो सबके लिए सेफ़ है। डिपेंड करता है कि हम उसको यूज़ कैसे करते हैं। रही बात फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन की, जो रूरल में कैसे हम लोग इम्प्रूव कर सकते हैं, तो उसमें सबसे बड़ा पॉइंट यही है कि जो भी फीमेल हैं, उनको UPI हो गया, डिजिटल पेमेंट हो गया, उनको अपने दायरे में लेके आना पड़ेगा। उनको स्मार्टफोन हो गया, जो भी नई टेक्नोलॉजी है, उनको उससे अवेयर करना पड़ेगा। उनके प्लस पॉइंट जो है उनको अवेयर करना पड़ेगा, जो रिस्क पॉइंट है वो भी उनको बताना पड़ेगा, ताकि वो आगे चल के जो उनके फैमिली मेम्बर हैं, उनके बच्चे हैं, वो उनको एजुकेट कर सकते हैं। थैंक्स सर।
Thank you, Abhisar. Thank you, Sujit. Basically, I think the importance of having very simple interfaces for the people, and also making application accessible. When we talk about accessibility, it is, I think you rightly said, you also have to consider people who have some kinds of disabilities, and how do you make sure, and that's a big group, in our country. There are millions of people who are disabled. How do you make sure that whatever interfaces you create or the applications you create are accessible to these kinds of groups? And finally, I think the fact that you're focusing on base of the pyramid,
Yes.
tier 4, tier 5, is very interesting, and also I think using your own CSR funds rather than looking for subsidies for
Thanks.
reaching out to these groups. Now I think with that we will move to our next panelist, who is both a combination of a government entity and also with lots of experience in the private sector. We have Mr. Abhisar Sharma, who is the CEO of NeSL Asset Data Limited. Abhisar basically is a senior techno-functional global business leader possessing 2 decades of demonstrated execution expertise in consumer banking, SME, big data analytics, statistical score modeling, credit and risk management, due diligence of financial institutions, project management, digital banking, fintech, electronic payments. Basically, I guess you've worked across the entire fintech ecosystem. Now, since you have that much of experience, I would like to understand from you, how do you make sure that this entire fintech ecosystem is not only more accessible but also very safe and secure to use by the end users? As Sujit said, one of the big issues we have at the rural area when you talk about the last mile is the people thinking that if they go digital, maybe they will lose their money, somebody will hack, there would be some scam. And I guess you working in the area where you're trying to make these things more secure. So if you can tell us more about that, and also some ideas on how do you create this trust in the rural community that these applications are pretty secure and will not basically be a risk to their money.
Thank you, Vikas ji, for the succinct introduction, and a very warm good morning to all of you who have taken out time to exchange ideas, I would say, not listen to us. I think because we learn, learning is always a two-way process. So to begin with my little introduction, I today represent NeSL Asset Data Limited, which is the next stage of digital banking and digital financial inclusion as envisaged by our progressive government. So I was in the team that initially began with the UPI. I was in NPCI before this. And now the next stage is wherein which all the financially regulated entities by the Reserve Bank of India, the IRDA, the PFRDA, and of course the SEBI. So which is right from B to I, BFSI. All these entities have been envisaged by the government for open banking. Now, open banking is a term which all of us, I'm sure, must be hearing and listening to a lot. So this is basically an open set of APIs wherein which service providers can plug in and provide services to the customer in addition to what banking is and financial services is. So from that perspective, account aggregator is a new paradigm for our country, and which is, I would say, the first of its kind anywhere in the world. So now what these people are doing, what entities like me are supposed to do is, we are facilitating open banking through the digital public infrastructure, DPIs, as you all of us have gone through, all the discerning audience here, I'm sure we are aware of the fact. So this is a very interesting aspect, now, because on one set you will have a lot of financial information providers, your banks, your insurance companies, your mutual fund portfolios, your AMC companies, your life and general insurance companies and stuff like that. On the other hand, there are such entities who would like to have your data to maybe sanction a loan to you. Digital lending, you must have seen our regulators have been very proactive in addressing a lot of gaps in the digital lending space. So now what an account aggregator technically does is, Vikas, is that they will ensure that the flow of information is basis the consent of the customer. The consent of the customer is the center point of anything, and it basically democratizes the customer data, and the customer is the king for his data for that particular use of that services that a customer wants to have from these entities. So from a financial information provider with the account aggregate in the middle, the information goes seamlessly to the financial information user. So for example, you as a gentleman, now to come to rural India, I am very sure it is going to be a game changer for rural India folks, where 64% of our population resides. Why so? Because you see, we were just discussing backstage with Mr. Vikas, with the World Bank expertise that he has, that many of the rural folks don't have history, credit history they don't have. How do you sanction a loan? Because the underwriter doesn't get the comfort that if I were to give him a loan of XYZ amount, will it come back? And you will all appreciate it's public money. So one has to be very prudent about it, as kind of regulated by the regulators that we have in the country. So now this gives you a very good data, so what happens is the entire 360 degrees assets held by you across these financial information providers, the banks, the insurance companies, and maybe the AMCs and all, can be accessed by your bank for which you have gone for a loan. So the customer is in the center of everything, what the government envisages now. So when you go to a financial information user, for example, a bank for a loan, that has a very qualified information of that particular customer from the banks, from the fraternity itself. So the underwriters there, the loan forwarding agency becomes very comfortable in the sense that this gentleman can repay this loan in this period. And because of so much transaction data available, using artificial intelligence and machine learning, a lot of data points can be thrown in which a good credit history can be built for those customers who till now have been without any credit history, who have been first to the bank, as I say, new to the bank. So this is a very interesting aspect that a lot of people, I would say technically 60% plus people who are in rural India will be benefited by this. Now for me, as a person, I was also in India Post before this, Department of Post, where we understood that, with 154,000 branches spread across the nook and corner of the country, the biggest thing is how to reach to them. But thankfully, because of AEPS, Aadhaar-enabled payment service bridge and others, and other technologies which were developed thanks to the initiative of Government of India and the Reserve Bank, you'll be happy to note that there is very good discharge available for the bankers and to the last mile now. You can verify the last mile bank mitra, as they call it, banking correspondent, can verify the customer and dispense small ticket loans to them. Now, small ticket loans coming to these small proprietors, young proprietors, the people in the rural India, will generate a lot of employment. A whole ecosystem can be generated once a loan can be sanctioned to them. For the people who had no credit history till coming to the, before the financial inclusion drive that the government initiated. So what will it yield to? It will, for my understanding, I sincerely believe that if enhancing digital literacy becomes very important for a couple of aspects, because it will actually lead to true financial inclusive growth, economic empowerment, and of course improved access to information and services. You will also appreciate that most of the government services, the DBT, direct benefit transfers, are through digital mode today, right? One has to give a good discharge by authenticating either one of your 10 fingers as a biometric or your iris, depending on if at all the fingerprints are not discernible. So you see, not only it cuts across the middlemen in the process, but the beneficiary actually receives what the government has dispensed for it, maybe the state or the central government. So this has reduced a lot of pilferage, and the intended beneficiaries are getting benefited, receiving the subsidy directly into their bank accounts. So now how does it happen? Thanks to the visionary government, you see Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile, the JAM Trinity as we talk of, which actually was the first DPI to have been conceived way back in 2014 and earlier. So if you see the Jan Dhan accounts, you'll be surprised to know that the zero balance account today are 50 crore plus, and they have a balance of 2 lakh crore plus in them, which technically means that these people always had the wherewithal. The only thing was how to reach to them with these services. And to talk of what Mr. Vikas just asked me, how do you secure? It is very secure in the sense that most of it can only be compromised if the intended beneficiary does some error. So example, there is no two way, no two people can ever have your biometrics. For example, the 10 fingers, the digital imprint, and your iris, these are very unique biometric, I would say, the features which are there in an individual. And these are used to discharge the services of the government there. And what is actually it is very significant because it has led to a lot of empowerment and financial inclusion across the rural folks. It has led to a lot of economic opportunities, I was just discussing, because a particular tea stall getting a loan of let's say 5-10,000 ensures that 4-5 people get employed by him, maybe as a waiter, as a steward, as somebody who's cleaning the stall there. So a lot of employment generation happens there, and access to education. The COVID actually taught us that people can actually do lots of work without even interacting with each other physically. So I think from that perspective, I think this has been a big inflection point for most of the governments across the world, wherein which people have started talking to each other digitally. Most of our meetings are happening digitally. Most of the services provided by the government today to the rural folks, to the right recipients, beneficiaries, happening digitally. So I think from that perspective, lot of, I would like to point here, I'm very happy to point out here, that a lot of this traction has come from 64% of the population which is based in rural India. So I'm happy to say that when I was starting my career way back in 2002, we only used to talk of top 15 cities. But today I see the engine drivers are tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, if they can be termed as that. And which is largely Bharat, as we say, as opposed to India. So, and because you see, because of the Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile Trinity, and with the penetration of mobile services, so as many people are there, that many mobiles are there. Some of them are, most of them are smartphones, others are feature phones. And with the Aadhaar, because the population, the eligible population, all of them have Aadhaar today. So utilizing this Jam Trinity, all the people across the entire digital banking or the fintech chain have been able to reach to the last mile. And this has slowly started attracting a lot of foreign investments into it. You see many of the unicorns are being created in fintech space today. So not only is it good for so as they say sometimes, what is good for the public eventually becomes good for the business. So I'm very confident that with going ahead with risk mitigation strategies and the confidence building up in the whole digital banking space, thanks to the government's initiatives and the regulators' initiatives, I think we have just scraped the iceberg. I think India is and will continue to lead the global world in this initiative, and powered by our rural folks, 64% of our people who stay in Bharat till today. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhisar. It is wonderful to know that we have now a new digital public infrastructure in the form of account aggregation. I guess this would help a lot of people in the rural area who cannot access loans because they cannot provide anything to mortgage. But I think there are transactions which they do on the various systems, and also some of their movable things like crop produce, etc., as assets. If they could be used through the account aggregation platform, and helps them take the loans. But as we were discussing, implementation of consent management framework, because account aggregators are seen as data trustees by lots of the people, and they should be using the data of the people with their consent to provide them services. So I think if we can implement that, this could be a game changer for taking fintech to the rural areas.
Absolutely endorse. Absolutely endorse.
And now I think finally, since we were talking about how to make rural India digital savvy and also enhancing capacities, we have with us Mr. Pradeep Aswal, who is the CEO of Blockchain Council, and I guess this organization have been engaged in providing the new age skills and certifications to many people, including on blockchain and many of Web 3.0 technologies. Abhisar is a senior global business leader possessing 2 decades of expertise in, sorry, I was talking about Pradeep. Pradeep has been instrumental in evangelizing blockchain and decentralized technologies with 2 decades of global experience in digital and deep tech space. He understands technology and how it revolutionizes all the industries. So, Pradeep, my question to you is, since you have so much of programs for providing new skills to people. How do you think this is contributing to enhancing the capacity? I would say both at the rural and at the urban level. And what is it, according to you, that the fintech industry should focus on as the key areas, both for the skill development and also for their interventions?
Thank you. Thank you, Vikas. Blockchain Council is primarily into education and certification of deep tech technologies, which includes blockchain, AI, cryptocurrencies, and cryptocurrencies to a large extent come under the ambit of finance and fintech kind of ecosystem. So with that, we had good exposure of education around fintech or finance related stuff across the world, and I personally am. I was born in a small village in Uttarakhand, and early years spent in villages only. So that mountain calling or village calling is still there, and I observe villages and life of in villages very, very carefully and very candidly with a lot of affection. So I try to understand few things over the last few years around education, around finance, around banking systems, and I realized few pieces of the puzzles are already solved, as in the government infrastructure around whole banking and the transactions made easy, that is already there. Technology wise, the healthy competition of Jio and Airtel contributed to the mobile and network availability across India. Everywhere you go, you will find either of these two or both of them. Across remote villages, you will find good network coverage. And when it comes to technology, mobile phones are like part of life even for the rural people. Everybody in my village, my aunt, related aunt also has it, their son also has it, and people around everybody in the village, at least one person would have a smartphone or something, because it's accessible also. Now you get smartphones in 5,000-6,000 rupees, and it's one of the aspiration to have a smartphone. So technology wise that puzzle is solved, internet wise that puzzle is solved, the banking financial infrastructure wise UPI and transaction is available to anyone who has internet and phone. So those puzzles are solved. Where the things, where the bottleneck comes is, as others also pointed out, is education. And I'll quote a report from World Economic Forum published in January 2024 only, where when they did the survey around the challenges around fintech, almost 50% of the respondent told the number one problem is consumer education. And for APEC, it becomes 60% of the respondents. So people are using technology, people are using phone, people are not using necessarily it for financial purposes. They are not comfortable using technology for fintech. And a lot of it also has to do with the challenge also, in my opinion, personal opinion, lies with what is available in fintech for rural world. I don't think enough innovation is happening there, because other than lending and insurance, there is no other innovation or no other product line is there which can be revenue generating, which is considered sustainable for the companies. So none of the companies are working beyond lending or insurtech in the large scheme of things, in the sense that people feel value. So somebody who's not looking for loan is not interested in fintech. Their work is with fintech is done with financial transactions. So far they are getting money or transferring money to someone. That much exposure they already have, or that much education they already have, and in case they don't have, then they only want to learn that piece of the puzzle where they can get money or they can send money. They don't want anything else to do with the whole ecosystem. They are consuming internet data like anything for creating content, for consuming content, watching matches, doing all sort of things. In fact, all these fantasy games, the lower strata of Indian economy is hooked to these fantasy games like anything. I talk to all the blue collared people, and when the IPL and all happen, they all are having daily that 51 rupees transaction to fantasy games, and they are not interested in rest of the world of finance, what is happening across finance. They are just they are using technology, but they are not using it to the full potential or whatever more is available. So education wise, it's all the respondents, all the data, all the research also indicates that education is the biggest challenge. And we also, as part of Blockchain Council, we are also trying to solve or reaching out to people, providing education, certifications. Fortunately for India, we are in a stable economy, stable financial ecosystem, so the cryptocurrency is not that big. But when you go towards the countries where the financial ecosystem is crumbling, their cryptocurrencies are big. They rely on Bitcoin more than their own currency because, of course, it's a gold standard for anything if your standard financial system is crumbling. So that ways we have not been able to do a lot of work with the Indian government or Indian rural ecosystem. However, the education must reach, people must know about what all alternates are there, and I'll reach out to fellow panelists also around this. How can Blockchain Council contribute to the education around fintech in the rural areas also? We have worked with universities, but universities again are creating their own programs around blockchain or deep tech technologies, but that education is not necessarily reaching out to the rural world as of now. However, I'm hopeful that that will change in times to come.
So Vikas, if I can add just one comment on Pradeep. I think Pradeep made a good point around, in the lower strata, people are not kind of interested in financial transactions, and they want to do it only when they want to get the loan. And I think that is the biggest challenge because when they want to get a loan, they are not inclusive in the financial ecosystem and they don't have a credit history for them to be able to underwriting the loan applications, right? So I think that's the piece of the education which need to kind of get in, because for you to be able to eligible for loans, you need to be part of the ecosystem. And I think this is where this part of the strata is kind of excluded from the financial ecosystem today.
Yeah, I think thank you so much, and thank you, Pradeep. You said people are interested in gaming. So many people doing gaming. So one good idea could be gamify your education applications so that people can use that to learn fintech. And as you said, I think account aggregation is one thing which can solve the challenge you have, where you cannot underwrite a loan. So if through other means, the account aggregator can give you information which can be used with trust for underwriting, that'd be good. But I think I'm also getting an indication from the organizers that the time is over for this session. So we will just use 2-3 minutes to conclude. So one thing, see, you've seen here that all the ingredients to take fintech to the rural areas, especially when you're talking about making Bharat digital savvy, is already happening. And I think the pace at which the rural areas are getting included not only into the fintech space but also in leveraging digital technologies is nowadays in some areas much faster than the way it happened in the urban areas. uh, I can talk about lots of projects not only in India but entire South Asia region where the focus has now shifted, and that is a much bigger market, even for the industry. We were talking in the beginning, the kind of turnovers our fintech players have so far by focusing only on urban areas or I think in some cases maybe lower tier cities. There's a much bigger market in the rural areas, and I think the myth that rural people are not tech savvy, they don't know how to use smartphones, they can't use fintech applications. I think it is changing very fast. And now with the advent of new technologies, today we're talking about voice-enabled generative AI, which can not only talk back to you in a human-like voice, but can also do lots of work you want to do based upon a voice command from you. So with generative AI becoming mainstream, we've not touched on that topic on this panel, but I think going forward, digital literacy itself, since you're talking about making rural India or Bharat digital savvy, the digital literacy would not so much be about solving people's technology problem by making them digital savvy, but I think in another 5 years, it would just be solving machines people problem. So if we can create applications which are innovative enough, which can use these new media technologies like generative AI, analytics, automatically linked to things like account aggregation, and can provide services to the people on voice commands, which is going to be a reality, very soon, maybe not more than 5 years, when using a most sophisticated digital tool for getting any services, be them fintech or any other domain, would just mean talking to a device in your own language. You won't have to even know technical jargons. Just ask for a service, and with the kind of technologies which are already being used in many areas, would be able to give the services to you. So I think the thing would be to, since lots of you have been working in this domain, to be able to upgrade our skill sets rapidly, not to basically learn too much of technology, but to learn how to leverage technology for what you want to do. Most of the time we are focused on means, blockchain, AI, robotics, and we forget what is it that we want to do. And as everybody rightly said, a person in a rural India or even for that in urban India is just interested in, say for example, getting a loan or doing a transaction. They're not interested in how complex the fintech industry could be or what kind of app he should be using. And with new technologies like AGI, I don't know, maybe 10 years down the line, with generative AI, this would be that simple for a person. Just ask a device for a service and get it. So I think we will reach there maybe much faster. As on AI, I think in terms of talent, India is in global AI index #1, and in terms of converting that talent into IPRs and local contextual applications, we are still behind some of the countries, and I think we'll catch up soon. With that, I think we will end up this session, and I'll hand it over back to the organizers. Thank you so much.